Hello and welcome to the Claret and Blue podcast. This is our Inside Bodymore show, our match preview. This week it's Aston Villa versus Manchester United, the big one. We're not doing this live, but we're going to treat it as live. So, John, if we make a mistake, we're going to roll with it and keep the chaos there that undoubtedly comes with it. How's things, mate? You okay?
Yeah, doing really well, thanks. Not looking forward to the international break next week.
No.
I feel like that's going to hit us really I don't know, like not out of the blue because we know it's coming up, but because we've just had a Bayern, we're hopefully going to beat United. If we beat United, it'll feel like, here we go. And then it's like, we don't play like in midweek. Like playing the next weekend is long enough to go without Unai Emery ball. But yeah, to go 2 weeks to wait to Fulham away, it's a long time. But I think you have to try and kind of like take stock of where we are, and we probably need a bit of a break as we'll go on to this episode. There's a couple of different injury niggles and bits and bobs floating around. So, but yeah, no, all good, thanks. You?
Yeah, good. The last couple of days has been a blur. For those watching this, we're recording this Friday night. I've got the Bayern Munich flag just in shot behind me, hanging off my bookshelf precariously. We will talk about Bayern Munich a little bit. We'll do it later. Let's focus on Man United a little bit. But it's weird, isn't it?
I was going to say, you mentioned the flags. Obviously, I'm in the press box now, so I can't.
Yeah,
we're not given the flags, which I thought was a bit like, if you want to make the display like perfect, right? Surely you want
the little section of press should be involved as well.
Yeah. Well, me anyway. I tried to get a flag after the game. But I couldn't, obviously. I spent about 2 minutes, which is a long time to look for a thing when you're supposed to be working. So I went up and down the Trinity Road steps and stuff trying to look for one. And then a steward who was in the top left like picked one up and he was like, I got one. There was no one around him. He was just excited for himself. And then I was like, damn it. Like, that could have been mine. It was right in the corner.
Have you seen that people have stuck them on eBay?
Yeah. That's why there was none left, because if you're the last people at Villa Park, that's what some people do. Don't know.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I was sat like how the stadium was divided up into how the display is going to look. I was like 2 or 3 seats away from the blue section, but I was in the Claret section, as was my dad as well. So I was very tempted at the end to say to somebody like, do you want to swap a Claret for a blue one? So I had one of each, but I didn't because of the euphoria of how the game finished. I actually forgot that was my plan. I just picked my things up and left at the end. But enough about Bayern. We'll come back
silly,
to that.
Doing it. It's just a flag. I guess people, that is the thing. Luckily, to be fair, I mean, I obviously get a programme because I'm media.
Yes.
I managed to get 2 of those. So maybe I'll give one away, but it's not like it's a final. Yeah, I don't know.
The Gary Shaw thing makes that one a little bit more special as well, doesn't it? And it's Bayern Munich. I was going to get one, but they were sold out in my part of the concourse.
Really?
So I didn't get one, yeah.
Oh, well. I should probably give one away then, obviously for free. But yeah.
Can I have it? I can put it here. I can put it on the bookshelf.
Your video's gone, then I can't see it. Hold on.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So a programme, 2 of those, that's fine. Forget the flags. Who cares about flags?
People who don't have flags would say something like that. Who cares about programs? Not me. Right. Anyway, we'll come back to Bayern Munich in a little bit. We will talk about that in a bit more detail. We were very tempted to do another podcast about it, but obviously me and Matt did an hour almost on Wednesday night. Kendrick's since done a Villa voice notes as well. So if you've missed that audio only show, you can go and do that as well. We'll do the Q&A next week. It's international break, so no doubt we'll talk about Bayern Munich a bit then as well. So we thought it didn't need its own episode from you and me. So let's focus on Man United, as Emery will have been doing from about 5 minutes after the full-time whistle on Wednesday night. Man United is the next game. I think he said something today like, I'm going to prepare for that more than I did for Bayern Munich. So, I mean, the game plan worked for Bayern. So if he does the same for United, it's 3 more points, isn't it?
I wish it worked like that. If it did, we'd win everything. I'm not actually too surprised that he said that. I think it's like a thing that a lot of people would. I mean, I picked it out as the first thing that I did an article on, so kind of proves my point wrong here a little bit. But I feel like the kind of the general football fan, or I don't know, maybe national media or whatever, who aren't with Unai all the time, they may think that's like, oh wow, like preparing for Man United more than Bayern, or Ipswich more than Bayern. Like, wow, that's quite something. He's probably lying, but he's not. Like, I think we said before, or did I say it in a voice note to you? I said this in a voice note to you, Dan, when it was about 4:30. I was in bed trying to sleep. And I think I sent you something like, we were deciding, as you said, should we do a podcast or not?
Yeah.
And I was kind of as I do, I kind of assess everything. And one of the things I said was, I don't want to sound negative, but would I rather have beaten Man United than Bayern? And like that sounds like horribly like what you're talking about. And I don't want to bring this up now. I am though. So
You are, yeah.
kind of, I think I said it before though. Like, and Unai said this after the game. The result, yeah, it's fantastic and brilliant. What a night, memorable night, historic night, etc., etc. So wouldn't change it for the world, and I actually wouldn't, to be fair, just because of the experience we had. But there is a feeling of, well, the bread and butter is Premier League. Every point is literally crucial. But in the Champions League phase, you could probably make the argument that Villa probably may not still finish in that top 8. So that Bayern Munich win, yeah, is important because we will play maybe an easier team in that knockout round, unless we get to the top 8, who knows? That's still a big task. But yeah, the point I'm trying to get to is basically, I'm not surprised that Unai is putting more effort. And by the way, put loads of effort into that Bayern game, still in like hours of video analysis with individual players and stuff. But yeah, for the United game, I'm not surprised that he's treating that like it is a cup final, because every game in the Premier League for him is that.
There was a line in today's presser about like you have to think about football for 75% of your life. I'd love to know how Emery breaks down his life into percentages, like 5% sleep, 5% food, 75% football. It feels to me that it's 100% football. No.
Yeah. There was a funny question, to be fair, at the end of the written section, which was nice to see a nice smile. He is a human. He does have emotions, but in press conference, it is nice to see him warm up a bit.
He's a bit like a football robot, isn't he? How he comes across sometimes. He's so like hyper focused on it.
To be honest, I think and this is only something that I would be able to see, and obviously other reporters, which is again privilege, etc. But to see him kind of relax a bit more in the written section of press conferences, this is something that I get because it's a press conference. You obviously have the broadcast section, which is what is going to be played on Sky, ITV, Villa TV, that stuff. But then the written section, I think, obviously Unai is aware that this isn't going to be recorded on video or even on audio that's going to be sent out. Obviously, we just tap it up and it's quotes. That's the embargo section for the written papers and stuff. But we obviously get to see him kind of more relaxed and a bit more, So that's a nice insight as such. But yeah, he was asked at the end of that kind of, do you allow for sleep in that kind of in your percentage wheel? And he laughed and he said something like, what did he say? I can't quite remember now. But it was something like, oh no, we need to be thinking about football when we sleep as well, But and then he went to explain about something else. It's like you can't stop the guy from thinking like constantly. And it's weird, like I don't know, maybe because I don't have a kid yet and I haven't really grown up. I'm thinking about football and Villa all the time, as are everyone watching this podcast. It's 100%, it's full on. But Unai doing the stuff he does is obviously much more than just like thinking about Villa and hoping we win at the weekend and will this player start or not. He's actually doing it. Yeah. So to think about how obsessed we are, it must be like that, but times 10 of he's doing the stuff that we're thinking about, which is obviously much more taxing than just playing it over in your mind, which is long enough. But 75% football, I think he's lying. It's probably 99% and then 1% or 0.5% sleep, 0.5% drinking and eating.
And family as well.
Yeah, no, of course. His son plays for the 21s as well, doesn't he? So
even that's football related. Can't get away from it. Cannot get away from it.
Yeah, literally.
Right. Let's do injury update next. Another kind of little bit of meat and bones of the press conference. Meat and bones. Meat and potatoes. Let's change it.
You need rice.
Let's change the cliche. Not meat and bones anymore. It's meat and potatoes. I mean, same kind of premise, to be honest. Anyway, injury update. Bailey, Ramsey. Yes, go with it. Bailey, Ramsey, and Onana. Talk to me about those.
So they're all. I mean, it's 7:15 on Friday night, and as of now, they are all doubts. But Unai is more hopeful that Onana will be able to play ahead of those two in terms of their respective conditions.
They train tomorrow as well, don't they?
Yeah, so the players are going to train today on Saturday, but Emery says he's going to make a late call on all three of them, so Sunday morning, basically. So we're still quite a long way away from knowing, but put it this way, I think if the game was on Saturday, I think Ramsey and Bailey would. I mean, I don't know. I can't say for certain, but just the way that Bailey was playing, he looked unfit. That isn't a criticism of him, by the way. Like injured or whatever it may be. I actually felt a bit sorry for him because it was such like a brilliant night of obviously. And he, by the way, still played his part because he was playing for maybe half the game, I think. But there's so many times where you kind of got in a position and you're thinking, Bailey, if he's fully fit, he runs at his defender and gets the byline and chops inside. And you could tell everyone was kind of anticipating that, but no one really. There was one sigh, but that wasn't like against Bailey. It was more of like, now we have to defend. But I don't think there was any kind of criticism or like everyone going, oh, what's he doing? Or get him off or something like that. Because I think we all just knew he's clearly not fully fit. And that's why he was on the bench at the start of the game. And Ramsey, it looked like a groin injury. So I'm surprised that he's actually in contention, to be fair. I thought he would just be ruled out altogether. So that's positive that even if he doesn't play against United, then hopefully he'll be fine for Fulham. And then Onana, clearly had a bit of an issue. The Belgian manager came out and spoke about how he had a scan, and that was a positive scan, but obviously he's still got an issue, so we'll see how it goes. So again, kind of expecting that Emery would have said he's going to either be out or unlikely to feature, but it was the opposite. It was more confidence that he'll play because he said it's not a serious injury. So we'll have to see with all three of them, but hopefully at least two of them can play, hopefully.
Yeah, just reading the bits that have already been published, the kind of vibe I got, if I had to say, like, guess now what you think will happen, I think Onana will play and the other two won't. They might be on the bench, but I think if we can get away with not needing them or maybe just 20 minutes, then I think that's what you'd see rather than the three of them just start out of nowhere.
Yeah, if you had to guess it, that's what I'd say as well. It'd be nice to have Ramsey and Bailey on the bench, as you say, then starting them might be too much. And, even if Onana doesn't play, we've still got playing Ross Barkley, who very much deserves a start. But what I would say, and kind of the counter of that is, I absolutely want Onana to be playing, because if United have a threat, it's from set pieces, as we saw against Porto with Harry Maguire. So I'd quite like to have this 6'4" or whatever he is, midfielder, who, by the way, I thought was excellent against. I mean, they were all very good against Bayern, but I just thought he was, fantastic in the middle of the park. Onana, considering he also had a bit of an injury as well, super performance. So hopefully he'll be okay, but wait and see.
Yeah. Okay, let's go away from match day then, the part of the show where we can talk about something not about the upcoming fixture. And it's pretty obvious. We're going to rewind a couple of days for us and talk about Bayern Munich. I'm going to ask you just two questions here, and then we'll move on to the next section, because I don't want to go mental and do like another 20 minutes about Bayern Munich. So one is about the off-the-pitch stuff and one is about on the pitch. We'll start with off the pitch. We've obviously spoken a lot, me and Matt, on the podcast about the experience of the music, the flags, which, the flags were brilliant, John. I don't know whether you got your hands on one or not. Best flag I've ever had.
Program was decent as well.
Was it? Yeah, fair enough. Fair play. But all that kind of the music, the advertising.
On the team
board,
sheet, not free team sheet.
All right, that's enough. All really, really good. And you will echo all those thoughts as well. The question I wanted to ask you about the kind of experience of it all was from a journalist point of view. How was that different? What was that like to cover a Champions League game?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it starts the day before, really, in the press conferences, and UEFA do it very well because they get a player from each club as well. So we had obviously Unai, and we had Ollie Watkins, which was really good. We hadn't actually spoken to Watkins in a press conference setting even last season for the Conference League, because it was the same rules. A player would come up, so you'd have Cash, Concert, Tielemans, like not all together, but in different matches. Watkins wasn't used. I don't know if he was being spared for the final or something. But that was really good to get some comments from him, and obviously from Unai as well. But then the Bayern Munich one, which, going from the training ground to the stadium, Villa Park, for that press conference late at night was a bit of a chore, because I wanted to try and get some food and then I couldn't. I also got food. I should not be doing that. But yeah, that was a rush to get there. Then we had Serge Gnabry, obviously Vincent Kompany. It was strange that, because I was like, Bayern Munich, by the way, Kompany's brilliant to deal with. Like even last season when Villa beat Burnley twice, he was very respectful and very cool. You'd expect maybe someone who's like a born winner to be, and especially as we've seen him in the Amazon Prime videos, like losing his head. But in the press, he's always very good. So, credit to him. And he was after the match again on Wednesday as well. But just strange, because he was the Burnley manager, and then you're sitting in front of him thinking like, this is Bayern Munich. Like, no offense, but kind of what is, I don't know. You kind of think it's going to be an Ancelotti or Tuchel, like that stature. And Kompany, I'm sure will have a bright career in management, or I think he will. But yeah, the match itself, got there like 4 hours early just to make sure I got a seat in the press room. But yeah, that was in itself just a fantastic experience. I mean, the match itself, nothing different for me. covering the match. But then, you kind of realise the magnitude of it a little bit once you're not going to bed until like 5 a.m. just doing your work, because it's so like, wow, like that. You really kind of take stock of it a little bit more. But obviously, having the experience is fantastic. What I would say is the kind of going away to those different stadiums in Europe, that's more the kind of different experience that you'd have, if that makes sense. I'd be able to talk about it better if we'd played at the Allianz, I think, because Villa Park, everyone goes to Villa Park if you have a season ticket, obviously. So nothing kind of out of the ordinary. We just beat a different team on the pitch. So yeah, from our perspective, not much different either. But what I would say, and I said it to you as well, Dan, like the match against Young Boys felt like brilliant because we were back in the Champions League and we heard the music and we saw the Ball Boys or whatever shake the flag in the middle of the pitch, and it was great. And the Villa fans, you know, at the end when they like sung the champions after the anthem ended at Villa Park against Bayern, that you could probably hear much quieter, obviously, but for the Young Boys, so it was kind of like, oh, we're here, but there's only like 1,000 fans that have seen it. So when it came back to Villa Park, that really did feel like we're back now. Young Boys match was just strange in a way because they weren't good enough and we outclassed them really on AstroTurf. It didn't feel right. I don't know how to really explain that. The Bayern game really was like a, you know, even if we had played Dinamo Zagreb or something, a random team, that would still feel like proper, like, oh, here we are again. But just for it to be Bayern, it was like, wow, like this is a result and a performance, whatever it may be, that kind of goes global. Like that is the result that puts Villa into a global kind of stratosphere now. Like everyone knows who we are. We finished fourth. We're doing great. Unai Emery's like silenced his Arsenal doubters. But then you go and beat Bayern Munich and keep a clean sheet and everything else that comes with it. That was like a, you know, wow moment. And I'm going on a bit now because you've asked me about my work and I always speak a lot about it. But if people don't know, there's a thing called News Now, which is like a website which kind of every Aston Villa article, if you search Aston Villa News Now, any topic on Chelsea or whatever, it basically filters every article that is about that club. And obviously a lot of it will be the stuff that we do on Birmingham Mail and then other local outlets and national media. But every like 2 minutes there was an article coming, which in a way wasn't good for us because obviously that's a lot of traffic, you know. We were top at one point, obviously. But yeah, it was kind of constant. It was just a constant flow of stuff, which kind of, you know, again, was a clear sign of like, wow, we are like, the spotlight is on Aston Villa here for sure.
Yeah,
so, yeah, fantastic.
Well, you say I feel like a lot of things are about Villa Park from a job perspective were the same. Was the food different? Did Villa do anything differently to like, you know, the world's media was there? Surely they put on a better spread than cookies.
Firstly, Bobby by the way, mate, the cookies are outstanding. You can't really get better than those anyway. But press conferences, it's always going to be like a muffin or like a biscuit or something, which is absolutely fine. But then for matches, it's always at Villa anyway, or English clubs, it's always a meal or like a pie or whatever, depending on where you go. But Villa have stepped the game up massively for media food. Oh, yeah. Yeah, really, you know, big time. So it's very good. It was a curry, pretty certain.
Nice.
Yeah, curry, which was great. A lot of European teams don't kind of put on a meal, or if they do, it's not as good as like the Premier League clubs, which, like, you know, to be expected. There's loads of money in the Premier League, so it kind of filters down even to the media food. So yeah, it was, you know, fantastic night, kind of all round, and I can't wait for the Bologna match now.
I know, it's mad, isn't it? Let's talk a little bit, like I said, I don't want this to go on and on, but about on the pitch as well, the performance. Give me like a man of the match, give me the best moment, which is, you know, let's face it, the goal. Try and sum up that 90 minutes in a couple of minutes. Yeah,
I mean, not to sound like Unai, but I am kind of thinking about United now, so everything that I would have said after Bayern would probably be like an hour long, and now it's, I can condense it pretty quickly, but... at the start, obviously, I think Bayern took control pretty quickly. We then grew into the match, and to be honest, I think a lot of that came through Watkins in terms of him essentially bullying Upamecano, or Upamecano maybe bullying Watkins, but in a legal way, because every time he turned him, he was either trying to choke him out or trip him up. So he was very lucky to stay on the pitch, I thought, especially after that second one. I mean, presumably Company changed the tactics to a point where Bayern couldn't be as aggressive in their press, because if it meant only leaving Upamecano back, then Watkins was going to get him sent off in the match 100%. So that helped Villa kind of take a foothold in the game a little bit. And the Pau Torres goal obviously ruled out for offside. That was the warning for Bayern, and they heard it. But then they again took control a little bit in the second half, and you're thinking, okay, can we just get out of here with a draw? To be honest, they didn't have many chances in the match apart from after we scored. Obviously, the goal, fantastic. I didn't actually see Torres' pass. It picked up my head just as the ball kind of trickled towards. They trickled is the wrong word, but as the ball went to Watkins, Duran. I picked up my head and then saw him lob Neuer. That was my view of it. So it was just like, wow. Martinez for me was man of the match because without those 2 saves, we don't win the game. But also I don't think you can underestimate what he brings as a leader and I really want to think of a better word than this because it's a very like football Twitter thing, but his aura. You can't get any better than that from the back. I don't think any goalkeeper has that and has that impact on a team because even though he hasn't had the best start to the season, to be honest, he's letting a few goals, which I've criticised him for. There's just no way he was going to be beaten against Bayern. And it was just like, because it's a big night, it's a Villa Park under the lights, Martinez isn't going to concede. And that's just how it is sometimes because he has that about him. So, I could go through the team. Torres, I thought, was sensational. Contra as well. Carlos stepped up when we needed him. Luka Dean didn't put foot wrong. Like, you can just go through the whole team, but I won't do because it's going to take too long. But yeah, fantastic performance, fantastic win. I was really happy about the clean sheet more than anything else, really, because it shows that we still have that ability to kind of camp in and get those results like we did when Unai first joined the club. However, playing against Man United will be a completely different tactical challenge. And in most matches, we're going to have obviously play on the halfway line and take the game to those to different teams at Villa Park. So the Bayern match, it's good to see that we can play against those top sides and that we can probably go far in the Champions League because of that. But yeah, in the Premier League, there's going to be different tests. And I would say, again, I'm still thinking that we probably are a bit vulnerable against, for example, if we played Nottingham Forest at home, we'd probably concede a goal or maybe 2, who knows, because it hits on the counter-attack. And I don't think Carlos is quite mobile enough to play that way like against Ipswich. So yeah, not to be like negative here, but fantastic against Bayern, but we're going to play in different ways, and that is a bit of a concern for me still. But
Did you celebrate?
Yeah, of course it did. yeah. I celebrate when Villa score against anyone, but yeah, obviously a bit more obvious. I always check if there's people behind me because obviously you don't want to. I shouldn't say jump up because I did, but you don't want to kind of stop people from seeing the action because they're not a fan, maybe. But there was no one behind me, so yeah, I did jump up and gave it a big fist pump and all sorts. So,
did you do that for Pau Torres' goal as well?
I didn't actually. It was more of like oh my god, but I think the Duran one was because it was late and it was the Torres could have scored and we could have shipped a couple of goals potentially and it would have been like well. But the Duran one felt like okay, almost like the Bailey goal against Man City. That's the perfect time to score. All we've got to do now is hold out. So yeah, it felt like that was something that was going to win us the game, and it did.
Yeah, I've, like everybody, I'm sure, consumed every podcast, watched back the game, watched back the build-up, the post-match stuff, read everything. Honestly, I got it back on the BT app and watched like Tyrone Mings and Ashley Young doing all the pre-match stuff, knowing the result, like obviously, just going through it and reliving it. And what's interesting, I've put this to the comments as well. Everybody around us was taking photos, taking videos during the anthem and the players coming out, all that kind of stuff. And it happens during most games, but absolutely like for Bayern, it felt like everyone was doing it. And I felt at the time, I've done that before, never once watched any of them back. I don't know why I'm doing it really. Sometimes I think, well, from a work perspective, maybe I'll need this. And I never do. But even I, who's like cynical about like, am I ever going to watch this back? The video I've got of the Champions League anthem that's like 20 seconds long, I've even watched that back on my phone probably 5 or 6 times since Wednesday. I just started to hear that roar. There's a clip that TNT tweeted of like the actual, the proper cameras filming that moment. I've got that bookmarked on Twitter so I can go back to it as well. It's so mad, really. But I imagine everyone's the same, like consumed everything, watched everything, read everything because it's such a massive thing. Yeah,
I'm the same. I'll take photos and videos thinking it will be something that I look back in 6 months and then I'm in an airplane and I'm on my because everyone just goes on the photos on when you're in an airplane, don't you? And then you start deleting things. But this won't be something that you delete because it's just something to look on it. That and the John Duran song, like what a chant that is, by the way. I screen recorded the fans, Villa fans in a pub singing that because I was like, I just need to listen to that every now and again. Driving to Bodymoor today, singing it.
It is very catchy for that, yeah. Which is in your head. You don't get it in my head. This is a problem.
Should we sing it together? No.
Me and Matt almost started doing that on Wednesday night and just about held ourselves back.
Yeah.
I actually watched Frankie Maguire's podcast and he mentioned, this is very meta, he mentioned on his podcast that he mentioned something on our podcast when he was last on for Ipswich. He said something like, the last time we drew 2-2 against the lower opposition team, Bournemouth, last year, we then went on to beat Man City and Arsenal in the same week. So maybe we'll do something against Bayern and Man United. And he spoke about it after Bayern, like, the prophecy is already half true kind of thing. We drew to Ipswich, then we beat Bayern. Now do we go on and beat Man United?
Beat 13th place Man United. I get it though. Man United for us though is like prime Real Madrid.
I know that is the thing. So whether we can go on to win this game or not is different. Whether I see it being a 1-0, I'm not sure. It doesn't feel like a 1-0 game to me at all. We'll do obviously predictions.
No, we did Bayern.
No, but like Man City and Arsenal being 1-0s last year felt right. To follow that up with Bayern and Man United 1-0s doesn't, because if we're going to beat Man United, I think we'll score more. So let's go back to Man United.
If we beat Man United, I think we'll score more. You could be right there.
Could be right.
Could be right.
The title of this podcast is Aston Villa versus Manchester United, the one fixture I cannot stand losing. Now, we spoke about this last year when we played them, about like how much Man United kind of means to Villa fans, especially fans like my dad's age, even like can't stand them. Like this is the game that, or one of the games that you look at when the fixtures come out. When's Man United home and away? When's Blues? When's Albion? Like it's up there, which sounds crazy because they're not a local rivalry, but it's just they've always got the better of us over the last, 30 years. Very rarely Villa come out of that game winners and kind of having one up on them. Last year, how brilliant were we? But we still don't find a way to beat Man United. And 6 of the points they got last year were from us. Take those away, and they do finish genuinely mid-table. I think they're finishing the bottom half, if not for the points against us. And however good we might be and however terrible they might be, when these two sides clash, they somehow find a way to annoy us all. And there's that kind of long-standing, I don't want to say hatred, but for some it will be, of like, I really dislike this team. And if we'd have lost to Bayern Munich on Wednesday, I think most people would have gone, well, 6-time Champions League or European Cup winners, like, it's Bayern Munich, they're massive, they're a kind of super club giant, like, anyone could lose that. Yeah. If we come out of Villa Park on Sunday having lost to Man United, it will kill people. How disgustingly grim will that feel?
Yeah, and I said this in the little video today. It wasn't a little video, to be fair, that I do after the presses on Twitter, and I mentioned, like, for all the kind of momentum that we have at the moment, and it's going to change, stop because it's the international break, but you get my point. If we don't beat United, it will be like, oh God, this is flat now. Like, yeah, because it means more because it's United. Like, to be honest, almost every home game that we have, you want to win it, and if we don't win it, there's a tinge of disappointment. So there is that. But yeah, United, I think it's because we know that we can definitely beat this team. That's the jarring thing about it. Last year, we're 2-0 up against them. And then at home, you're thinking, why can't we just get over the line here? And we go and lose because Scott McTominay, like the last minute, it's like ruined my holiday. No, ruined my Christmas. It was Boxing Day, but, Boxing Day is better than Christmas, really. My family will love that. Because we lost and it was just horrible. Like even New Year's, like we kind of waited on a Douglas Luiz penalty against Burnley, and I think United lost as well. So I remember going home. I'm kind of going on now, but I remember going home, dropping my bag, and I said to my dad, "We've just reversed the Man United score, Dad. It doesn't matter now." And I was telling him that, and he's like, "Yeah, I know," but I was telling him that kind of to tell myself that United doesn't matter now. You can enjoy the New Year's, John, because they lost, we won, and then we lost, they won. Obviously because we played them. Yeah. So. Yeah, and why were we even worrying about United last season anyway? I mean, you kept saying it, like, it doesn't matter, they're going to finish in this position. So yeah, going into the game, we know that we can beat this team for sure, but it's another thing doing it. And I don't know whether, us playing Bayern, I think a lot of people are saying, it's the whole after the Lord Mayor's show stuff. But I almost want to flip it and say it could even be an advantage for us that we played Bayern and it was such a big occasion, because that now the fans know that we kind of have one more before the October international break, and it's going to be like a hero's welcome for the players. The atmosphere was so good against Bayern. Let's do it again. We enjoyed Wednesday night. Let's enjoy Sunday night. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we have a big part to play in that. So I'm hoping that that's how the players feel as well. Of like, Wednesday night was good. Let's enjoy it again, kind of thing.
Yeah. Was Arsenal like that last year? I should remember, because obviously I was there, but it was like, how good was Man City? And the kind of way I felt coming into this podcast, I said, speaking to Matt earlier, I've done work since Wednesday night, but I feel like I've done nothing, because all I can think about is Bayern Munich and how good was that? I'm just talking about it all the time. Like I said, I'm watching stuff, I'm reading stuff. They're like almost, we've got Man United at the weekend. Like, I'm not in the kind of headspace for like preparing for a game, which is great, because I'm not preparing for it like Unai is. He'll be focused on it. I'm still thinking about Bayern, so I'm more like, this is amazing still, and I'll keep that kind of bubbling over till I get to Villa Park. Was Arsenal the same last year? That we felt so good after Man City, of like, let's do it again. Like, just done that, so can we do this? Sure, it was.
That's how I felt about it. I think we had 72 hours, so it was kind of like you had to think about it because it was so close. That's how I felt about it, because it was like, we beat City. Like, oh my God. And then it's Arsenal. They're also in the title race, so we have to do it again.
So we could do it again.
Yeah. And Bayern are much better than Man United, but for us, it just feels like a massive occasion because, it's United and we just want to beat them. And that might sound small time to a lot of the fans, but only Everton have lost more games than us against United in the Premier League era, which I think is 41, and we've lost 40.
Really?
That shocks me, though. That genuinely shocked me. I presumed we were way out in front,
Well, we had a few years out of the league, to be fair, and Everton haven't. So we could have lost another 6 or 7 there, couldn't we?
Yeah. That is literally the reason. So, but yeah, I'm hoping that we can kind of just carry it into the next game, and under a manager like Unai Emery, I'm pretty certain we've got the best chance to do it under him than anyone else. So,
I feel more like the Bayern Munich game will help us kind of follow that momentum. Like you said, one more 90 minutes before a little break, get us over the line for one more game, lads, rather than it be like, we spent everything against Bayern and we've got no chance against United because we're knackered now. I don't see that.
And what I would say as well is, I don't think we can be more knackered than United. Or if we are, then that's an issue, because they've played obviously a day later in Portugal. Which isn't far, but you get my point. And to be fair, although a lot has been said about Ten Hag and other players trying, they were scrapping for that draw. Like, they didn't stop the whole game. They conceded 3 goals, scored 3 goals, sorry. Almost like a basketball game. They should be shattered and kind of dead on their feet after that match. They made a couple of subs. Like, Haaland came off on 60, so he should kind of be sharp and ready to go. But I think that definitely plays into Villa's hands for sure. So, yeah. I'm not really worried about that side of things, really, and kind of weighing that up a little bit with, we do have a couple of issues ourselves, but hopefully we'll be okay.
Yeah, okay. Let's do predicted 11 then, and our score prediction, and get out of here. Predicted 11, first of all. I'd say kind of stick with what we had, but obviously the Ramsey thing is a problem. Onana is a potential problem, but I still think he'll probably play. So, we've got a graphic to throw up on screen, and we kind of put this team together rather than me ask you, what do you think? We kind of had a bit of a discussion back and forth. So I'll read it out for those listening. Martinez in goal, Cash right back, Konsa, Torres and Dean, Onana and Tielemans in the middle, Maatsen on the left side, Philogene on the right, with Rodgers behind Watkins. Now, there's obviously a couple of standout names there. Cash coming back, who's kind of worked his way back to recovery. And he's ready. Cash back in the team allows us to put Konsa back in the centre. Although, as we said, Carlos played well on Wednesday. I saw somebody on Twitter say something like he's the player that matches the opposition perfectly. When we play a big game, he has a great performance, and when we play a game we should be beating, he has a performance level of the team that we're playing. Like, he was Ipswich standard on Sunday, and he was Bayern Munich standard on Wednesday, which is crazy. The left side is obviously a problem if Ramsey isn't available, and if Bailey's not available, obviously that's the right side. But still options. We had originally had Dean left back, Rodgers on the left, and Duran starting up front with Watkins. Why did we change that? Why did we change our minds?
I'll just open Slack and have a look. So really, I I am kind of going off Bailey isn't playing and Ramsey isn't playing from the start, because if Bailey is the same level as what he was against Bayern, then I don't think it's worth starting him, essentially, because I feel like he was being carried a little bit, and again, that's not his fault. But you're kind of thinking, well, Rodgers against Man United, who almost leave the midfield space free. Those midfielders, especially if Casemiro's playing, there's going to be a lot of times when Rodgers takes the ball, turns Casemiro, and then leaves Casemiro for dead. Like, that is what I'm planning in my head, that there's going to be lots of space for Rodgers to do his thing, and he could easily take this game by the scruff of the neck and be the man of the match, and everyone's shouting about him on Sky Sports saying, oh, he needs to now join this club. Shut up. That is what I'm expecting. So Rodgers, for me, has to play in that role, because that could be the key for Villa. I think they want it to be not necessarily an open match, but a match where we have obviously space to utilise. United, I believe, will probably try and hit us on the counter-attack, and that spells bad news, I think, if you're Diego Carlos, because we saw against Ipswich, he's not particularly mobile, especially on the turn. So if Cash is ready to go, then I'd definitely start him at right back. And then, Duran, yes, I want to see him start a game with Watkins and see what chaos happens. But we know that he is the perfect substitute that there is in world football. Like, I almost don't want to start him, which is mental to say.
I know, it's mad. You want to keep him in his role, which is Watkins, you tie down Harry Maguire or whoever plays at the back, Martinez, lol. And then Duran comes on and causes chaos and scores the winner with 15 to go. Like, that is the game plan.
You kind of taking away two big things there, because if Duran starts, Rodgers goes left, and then you don't have a super sub. Yeah. To kind of mitigate against that, you just bring in Maatsen on the left, and then it allows you, as you told me, Dan, bit more cover on the wings if, I don't know, Garnacho is playing or whoever else.
Yeah, you drop Maatsen back, Dean can tuck in ever so slightly, and you've kind of got the back five that we've seen before, but on the other side.
Yeah, so it makes sense. That's what I would go with, I think,
If Bailey is fully fit and he's 100%, he plays on the right and Philogene plays on the left, which, a word for Philogene very quickly, we've done it, so I'll give it to you. Playing essentially right wing back at times at the start of the game, Ramsey goes down injured and has to go on the left-hand side, which played for Hull, and it was very good there. And then Bailey comes off again. Philogene's just right back to the right-hand side, do what you were doing before. And the fact that how young he is in the magnitude of the game to play in both sides of the pitch, track back defensively, put tackles in, win the ball back, but also be composed enough to go forward as well, was an unbelievable performance. And you now kind of feel like after Ipswich, it was a bit like, I genuinely saw people saying things like, why have we signed him back? He's not good enough, which was a little bit like, he's probably not fit or whatever. Yeah. And it's, a one game isolation to literally days later going like, he looks amazing against Man United. Yeah, play wherever. You need him on the right, fine. Need him on the left. Yeah, great.
Yeah, and the versatility is key for Emery. Like he always says it about Miggen and other players as well. Firstly, the stuff about Philogene after that Ipswich game, I thought was just way out of proportion. Like I did not understand that at all. We know he's had a couple of injuries and he's playing on the right, which isn't his favourite position. He's also technically a new player because he didn't play for Villa last season. He played pre-season. Yeah. Like I just thought that was kind of, not say out of order because everyone's got their opinion, but I just thought there's no real need for that. And yeah, against Bayern, fantastic. I'm not just saying this because it's after the event, but he defensively and his work rate, that side of his game is very, very underrated. I think he had 99. I think he was pretty sure he was 99 tackles in the Championship last season for Hull, and he didn't play every game for Hull last season because he had a bit of an injury during December and January, I think. So that his work ethic is very good, and you would not think it. It's kind of like the Ashley Young situation of how the hell did he turn into a fullback? Like from what he was kind of like the prime Barclaysman player, and with pink boots, and it just doesn't look like that. But Philogene is exactly the same thing, but he works hard off the ball. He was fantastic, and it's kind of testament to Emery as well that he can play two players who at the start of the year were Championship footballers in Morgan Rodgers and Jadon Philogene against Bayern Munich, and we win, keep a clean sheet. Both players are excellent. That versatility is going to be key. What I would say is that I want to see him on the left, Philogene, because that is where he's most dynamic and most effective. He gets shots off. He beats his man. He plays with flair. When he's playing with confidence, as he will be as the season goes on, I really do think he's going to be an asset for us this season, but definitely going forward as well. I think I put him down as my young player of the year at the start of the pre-season show that we did, just because I thought he's going to have a role to play, and I really do like him. He has a lot to his game for sure.
Yeah, you see him playing on the left with Matson overlapping, and then Philogene having the know-how and the maturity to know he's got to drop back and help defend as well, and that left side working well. But then you go, where does Ramsey play? And this is the great problems of being a big club with depth, that you have options. I said on the post-match show about you and I think, I might be making this up, but I'm hoping you've got a better memory than me, because no one in the comments pulled me up on it and went, oh yeah, you're right, I remember that episode, so this could be absolute. Did we kind of maybe even joke about it rather than anything serious? Talk about Philogene playing wing back at one stage on an episode?
I don't remember that. Sorry to burst your bubble.
Yeah, it was after all.
You might have said it and I might not have been listening. So
I feel like in the squad depth thing, we were like, where's Philogene going to play? And it's like, well, his defensive number is actually all right, so maybe he could come in the right wing back slot that Conte comes in. And
I don't remember talking about Philogene's defensive numbers before. But maybe we did because I did a piece about it at the start of in pre-season or whatever, so we might have spoke about it briefly. But what were we going to say anyway?
No, that was it. I was just like, our vision's come true. We spoke about Philogene being a bit more defensive minded, and against Bayern Munich,
now you say it.
I'm sure we did that.
I told you in a press conference that Rollo said.
If anyone in the comments remembers that episode when we're talking about squad depth or whatever, I might be making it up, and I can't be asked to go back and check, to be honest. So, all right. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let's move on and do our score prediction. As we've been talking through this, I feel like we've kind of alluded to the fact of a bit like a basketball game. We've seen Villa lack control and have to be high scoring. Yeah. And that's not what I've gone with for my score prediction. Spoiler alert, I've gone lower than I think it probably will be. Right. Are you ready to reveal them on screen? And then we'll talk through them. Ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Damn it. Oh, nice.
Oh, we've done the same.
I thought you would do that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so... I mean, for the prediction league, this is the whole point. Yeah, we've gone the same. I would ordinarily go, I'm going to change it so I can try and win the predictions league, but can't do that now. 2-1, yeah, it feels a little bit more low scoring than I feel like it probably will be. I think if we are going to win it, it probably is going to be more like a 3-2 or a 4-2 or something like that. 2-1 feels a bit low.
Yeah, I think this could be any scoreline really. And by the way, I'm not ruling out drawing or losing because you just don't know against Man United.
You reckon? Yeah,
I'm being serious. I don't think that's going to happen, and obviously I wouldn't wish that at all. But I'm going into the match expecting Villa to win. I think, but we're going to have to play as well as we possibly can because United, they're shockingly bad in form, but they always seem to pull out a result against a decent side. We obviously had it twice last year. We finished fourth. It's not just the Villa curse again. They beat a side who finished fourth twice. So if that was whoever finished fourth for the season before, we'd be saying, oh, they did that against Tottenham or Chelsea or whatever. So that is worth counting for still.
I suppose.
They obviously beat City in the cup final. They beat Liverpool, I think, once and then got a draw against them at Anfield. They aren't a good side, but they're a group of individuals. I saw...
well, they're not a good side, but they still had enough to finish 7th last year and win a trophy and win a trophy the year before. They're somehow, as much as we all despise them, they still find ways to just...
It's the way... It's often the manner in the way that they... for example, I saw a stat earlier that they always concede, or they often concede 2 goals very quickly. So I'm hoping that happens again at the weekend. But it's like the manner of their defeats are bad. If they drew to Porto 0-0 or 1-1, okay, that's not a bad result for them, but they drew 3-3, so it feels like, oh my God, conceded 3 goals again. They scored 3. So it's difficult. I'm not going to kind of get drawn into the fact that they're, what I'm trying to say is they're a decent side, but they're not shockingly bad. They're 13th, but one more win and then be 7th or something. It's just, we have to respect them. And I'm not trying to sound like you and I there. Genuinely, we've won once against them in the Premier League since 1995 or twice or something silly. Or at home once since 1995, I think the stat is. I've even seen I think Dan Bardell did one, and I kind of agreed with all of it, to be fair. He basically picked no Villa player over any Man United player. But then one of the comments...
the other way around.
What did I say? Sorry.
You said he picked no Villa player over a Man United player. You mean the other way around. He didn't pick any Man United players in a Villa 11.
Yeah, but that's almost libelous, that is. But one of the comments was, but if we had one of those United players, you bet your bottom dollar that Unai would make them into the player they're supposed to be. And I was like, yeah, that is absolutely true. So, agree that I wouldn't take any United players right now. But I think that says a lot about them as a team. They are not a team. They are, pardon the pun, they're not united. They are kind of a group of individuals who aren't, gelling, which is mad because Ten Hag spent so much money on players that he literally knows. So that says everything about where they are as kind of a management team. So,
well, hopefully this win is.
I have
enough.
A shout out, Dan.
Go on then.
Do you remember it? I told you yesterday.
Is this KFC?
Yeah.
Go on then, tell us the story.
I should have said this at the start of the video because he's probably turned off now. So I'm in KFC treating myself after we beat Bayern, obviously. Getting what did I get? A bargain bucket? Is that what it's
called? Is this on Wednesday night?
No, it was yesterday. It's Thursday.
Okay,
Thursday.
still celebrating.
So it was like a post the match treat, I suppose. Post day treat. I'm in the queue because I've got cash, some tender. And I'm trying to pay. It was a massive queue, and he was like, "Oh, what's going on?" I didn't get served for like 10 minutes. But then in the little drive-through window, I don't know his name because obviously I couldn't have a conversation. But he said, "Oh, John, listen to the podcast. Listen to it now." And I'm like, "Hey, go on." And he looked at me again, and I was like,
he was listening to it then in the drive-through.
Yeah. Listening to it in the drive-through.
Love it.
I'm pretty sure that's what he said. And I didn't get his name. Didn't get anything about him apart from that he must live relatively local to me. So whoever you are, thanks for listening and keeping me brief company as I waited for my KFC.
What, for like 10 seconds?
Well, yeah, I guess it was, but it's a shame I couldn't have a more in-depth conversation, but it was across the counter and he was out the window waiting for his food.
I've been spent the last maybe 30 seconds trying to think of chicken-related Aston Villa, Claret and Blue puns, and I've got absolutely nothing.
You need Matt for this.
We filmed for 48 minutes. Bloody hell.
We're doing well. There's just a lot to talk about. And
yeah, I know. And I knew we'd talk about Bayern Munich as well, because how can we not? A little bit longer than usual, but hopefully people will enjoy it regardless. You've still got another 24 hours before the game kicks off anyway. More than that, actually. So plenty of time to have... if you are hearing this bit now, you've listened to 48 minutes worth anyway. So I'm like, make time for it. You have made time for it. You got to the end. Well done. John, thank you for joining me as always. Thanks everyone for watching or listening to this episode of the Claret and Blue podcast. We'll be back for the post-match show on Sunday afternoon. That'll be me and Kendrick, hopefully talking about a big 3 points, because as the title says, I cannot stand to lose this game. John and I will catch up for a Q&A on Monday or Tuesday of next week, and me and Matt have recorded an episode as well for the back end of next week. So we're going to take our foot off the gas a little bit through the international break and have a bit of a rest ourselves as well. It's been some pretty full-on start to the season, and I could do with a break, to be honest with you, John.
You just said you haven't worked for 3 days.
No, I have worked, but I feel like I haven't. Anyway, I'm going to go now. Thanks everyone for watching or listening, and we'll see you Sunday. I have worked. I've just not been focused.